Yahweh bless you. Thank you for the fellowship that we're going to have today, and thank you, Father, for this wonderful day. Got a lot of blessings around us. So why don't we begin with a prayer? And somebody who's not used to giving prayers would probably like to do this. And how about David? Do you know how to pray?
Yeah.
Okay, so do it loud.
Lord, please bless us for all being here and blessing the word of Yahweh, and just thank you for everything you've done for all of us. Amen.
Amen. Good job.
Excellent. Good job.
That's something else, Sean, I think we need to memorize. Our Father would be a good one to memorize, and that's really Matthew 6:9, Our Father who art in heaven. And that's sometimes what many people in groups will automatically say together, and everybody goes into it. And not as a Rothrab does, because it's a little bit different. So I thought that'd be good for the kids just to know too. That's Matthew 6:9. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the. And actually, it's the evil one.
It's so weird. Hadn't said that prayer in forever, and Chuck was testing me the other morning, and he goes, "Our Father," and I was like,
Yeah.
and I just can't, I haven't said it since probably I was a kid. I had a little help. But.
So we all should do that. Memorize
Yes,
verses.
Massa.
Very
We've been
important.
doing that for you.
Now we're going to do a sharing today on two of the most important events of Yahweh, that they were so important that he set the calendar to them. And who can tell me what those events are?
The birth of the Christ,
And so what day and month are we talking about?
September 11th.
Tishri.
Tishri. Oh yeah.
And what's the next one? Where he changed the calendar.
Nisan.
Yeah, which is?
Nisan was in March, right?
Yeah, Nisan. And so we're going to learn about these, and these are very significant. I've never taught this, and these should be foundational, that when we talk about Genesis, what month are we talking about?
The first one.
Which is?
Nisan. Tishri.
Tishri. So Yahweh created, which we're going to see on Tishri 1. And that's why in the Jewish calendar, every Jewish calendar begins with Tishri 1.
Yeah, but what month is that according to us?
Well, that's September, October. And so that's when Yahweh made the climate, was September, October.
And is Nisan in March?
Yeah, well, yeah, Nisan now is in March, so 7 months apart. So and we're going to go through that. So Nisan becomes the first month, and this is after Exodus 12. And so we have to say, what significant events did Yahweh do? Well, one is the creation. That's Tishri 1. His son's born was on Tishri 1. And then we changed it for one, astronomical event, which was called the what?
Passover.
Yeah, the Exodus from Egypt. And so it was so huge that he redirected the whole calendar to Nisan. These things we should automatically know, we don't.
Nisan being the first.
We didn't know what those names would mean. I didn't know anything about Tishri until Dr. Whirl, with the way Ministries started doing these things. And it's huge. Every Jew knows Tishri is the month. And now it's the 7th. And so there are two events. United States would go by a January calendar, but the fiscal government goes by, I think, October calendar or July. So there's 2 years. Their beginning of the year begins in July or October, while our calendar year begins in January. And so this is nothing unusual. And so the Jewish year begins with Tishri 1, but according to the Exodus, it's Nisan 1. So let's go to Genesis 1, and we'll start on this. You want a Bible, David? Okay. See one up here?
So can you get that black one and that pink one down too, please?
You want a pink one or a red one?
That one's
No,
Izzy's.
she asked
The
you to
regular
take
one
the
is
pink
Shauna's.
one and the
Yeah,
black
you
one.
do. Yeah.
Okay, I know. Just
Thank you.
asking a boy if he wants a pink Bible or a red one.
That's Izzy's. Somebody
Yeah,
grab
that's
Izzy's
the
Bible.
pink one. Yeah.
He's not here to defend himself.
Thank you.
Right.
I forgot to get them before.
We noticed that too, that with guys who have women's names are mocked. And you know, Patricia is really Irish. That's male. It's a male name, Patricia.
Patrick.
Yeah, but it's not that. They call them Patricia. And so there's different names. They're, oh, what a bummer name. Why women get men's names all the time. And nobody ever mocks them. So it's just another little incident. That's no relationship whatsoever.
They mark men who wear women's clothing too. But
Yeah, women can wear men's clothing, baseball caps on backwards, everything else, no problem. If a guy put on a scarf, big problem.
Big problem, man. Major malfunction.
Yeah, no man buns.
In fact, there's a Levitical law about that.
That's
man.
right. That's right.
But I digress. Okay, Genesis chapter 1. So we just got to start thinking all over again. You know, everything, not everything, but most of the things that we've learned is just wrong. Yeah, it's just wrong. It's amazing how Christianity, what we call Christianity, is not Christianity at all. It's a religion that's been concocted. You know, I just heard today that Jesus, why the Trinity is so much better than a mono meaning one, with Islam, is because before man came around, who did God have to talk with? This was a Christian preacher. You know, Rabbi something on the radio, a very famous guy. And he says, yeah, then that means when they made man, it was like he was lonely. He needed a man. I just thought, I can't believe I'm even hearing this. And this is justifying that three gods getting to talk to each other so they're not lonely. But they're not three gods, they're the same God who talks to himself. I mean, it's just like, are you insane? That's what was being taught on the radio. You know, people are immortal. Are people immortal? They say man's a tripartite, three elements, body, soul, and spirit. No. You know, and so people are in heaven. No. You know, when people die, they don't die. No. I mean, it's just one thing after. What is right?
yeah.
So you have to ask, what actually do you have right? Is their God is not Yahweh, he's Jesus. That's completely wrong. And you know, two died with Christ. No, there was four. He died on Good Friday. No, he died on Wednesday. I mean, it just goes, as the Sabbath is Sunday. No, it's not. That's the first day of the week. That's not the last day of the week. I mean, it's just like, wow, how could people be so wrong in so many areas and read the same book?
Yeah.
And they're not reading it. So, Genesis 1, in the beginning, Elohim, and this is neat, in the beginning, what is that? Grammatically, what do those marks mean?
Grammatical inversion.
Grammatical inversion. So the book begins with a grammatical inversion. We would usually say God in the beginning created the heavens and the earth, right? That's how we were taught. And so the emphasis was in the beginning. What a great deal. Rotherham points that out. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Day one. No, the counting doesn't start. And now the earth hath become waste and wild, and darkness was upon the face of the roaring deep. But the Ruach of Elohim was brooding on the face of the waters. Day two. No. We got to see, no counting begins until verse 3. That's not Tishri 1. That's not the first of the creation. For mankind, that's when the earth came into effect, but there was something else that happened way before us. And that's what people got to realize too. Man is not the center of the universe. There's creations we have no idea. They're called principalities and powers and messengers and demons, and there's all sorts of the unseen world that's around us all the time. And how many things we don't know about. And so when people start putting that man and God, that's all there is. Well, that's just ludicrous. Now we begin on Tishri 1. And Elohim said, light be, and light was. And Elohim saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim divided the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, but the darkness called he night, so that it was evening and it was morning one day. Well, I started thinking, if man is so important, shouldn't he have been made on day one?
You would think.
You would think so. I mean, you'd make, okay, this is what it's all about. Man's going to be on day one. He's not. Well, that's interesting. And you say, well, he's on the sixth day all by himself. Was that the only thing that happened on the sixth day? No, interesting. Isn't that weird to say that man didn't have his own day? His own coming out party. And we're going to see why. So Yahushua, as we know, it was born on Tishri 1. He was on Tishri 1. Man doesn't get made till Tishri 6. And you have to say, why isn't man made on Tishri 1? And why was he on 6 instead of 1? And why was Yahushua was on 1? Because it had to be Yahushua was perfect. He was going to be a sinless man that justified Tishri 1 of the new creation. Why man, as we know, flunked. All right. So we go to verse 24, chapter 1. This is actually Tishri 6. Now watch whatever happens on 6. We must scratch our head to say, wow, we didn't even get divided from the animals, did we? Well, what are you trying to say, God? Hey, we must think about that. You know, he's making a statement here. You think you're a God? Not yet. You know, you've got to choose to be a servant. You got to choose obedience. And until then, you're just an animal. Because we're going to find out the end of all mankind who reject the Creator are going to be no different than what? Animals. They all die, they're all vapor, they're all ashes, they're all dust, they're gone. That's it. What happens to a dog or a cat? Same situation. What's going to happen to Obama? Same situation. They're nothing but animals. Land animals. 24, and Elohim said, let the land bring forth living nephesh after its kind. When people say man has a soul, that's the word soul they translate. Well, that's nephesh, that's animals. All right? So what you think, what people tell you, and what actually the word says do not agree. A soul is not something that you have that leaves your body when you die and goes someplace else. Animals are living nephesh. After its kind, tame beasts and creepy things, wild beasts of the land after its kind. And it was so, and Elohim made the wild beast of the land after its kind, and the tame beast after its kind, every creepy thing of the ground after its kind. And Elohim said that it was good. This is still day 6. Man's part B. Elohim said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Okay, differentiating between animals and man was image and likeness of Elohim. You know, how are we different? Because we're living souls, they're living souls. All right, so, okay, well, what's the difference? We're made in the image and likeness of Yahweh. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the bird of the heavens, and over the tame beast, and over the land, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the land. And you could probably go all the way through here. Let's just go to and 31. And Elohim saw everything which he had made, and lo, it was very good. So it was evening, and it was morning, the 6th day. So Tishri 6 was Adam and Eve, or Adam. And I keep saying that. They were made as twins. And so first thing, people keep acting like women were an afterthought for man. And that is in Genesis chapter 2. Genesis chapter 2, it's a different account of creation. Genesis chapter 1, it's the same. Well, let me just go over that. Go there. Let's go to 27. And Elohim created the man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him. Male and female created he them. They're twins. So just think of them being 12, because it could never be righteous to say, here's a female that she's subservient and came from Adam's rib. You know, you're like, well, that doesn't seem very fair. Do you want to come from Adam's rib, or would you rather be Adam? Well, I'd rather be Adam. And so you're like, that doesn't make any justification at all. Well, chapter 2 is all about marriage. And so this is when they become one flesh. And in marriage, the woman gets to voluntarily say, I want you to be the head. And if you don't want them to be a head, you don't get married. All right, so very simple. You can be the head. You be the head, just don't get married. And so chapter 1 is about the creation, but everybody looks at chapter 2 and acts like chapter 1 didn't even exist. And it discredits women. And we know Yahweh is no respecter of persons. Let's see here. Let's see here. Oh, and let's just look at, we're going to go to Ecclesiastics chapter 3. That's page 637. And this is a validation. And there's many places. So you got Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastics.
The Old Testament Esther.
Page 637 in the Old Testament. The thing about Ecclesiastes, I can't even read it. It's just so depressing. So I don't read it. But think about this, man has come up with this whole concoction that man is different than the animals. He lives outside his body some way, either in hell, a bad place, or in heaven, a good place. It's interesting. There's another thing I start thinking about with a lot of people. If you ask a Christian to say, what Hebrew word do you mean when the Catholics say purgatory? And what do you have to say? No, there is none. Yeah. And a Protestant would say, well, there is no such thing. Right? Okay, now let's talk about hell. What Hebrew word are you saying? No different than purgatory. They're both creations of men. Wow. But if we talk to a Protestant, they feel very superior to Catholics. So they don't pray to Mary. The Catholics take that very seriously. And so you can talk to a Protestant by saying, well, a Catholic prays to Mary. Oh, yeah, they pray to Mary. You can't pray to Mary. Well, you pray to the Holy Spirit. Now, where does it say that? I know it doesn't say pray to Mary. It doesn't say pray to the Holy Spirit either. It only says pray to God. You pray to Jesus. It doesn't say that either. And so, by using that, you can help teach them. Because they can see very clearly, we can usually see other people's mistakes very clearly. And then we can see that, now I'm going to relate it to us, and that's the same analogy where Nathan came up to David and said, this guy took this guy's sheep, and what do you want to do about it? He said, kill him. And he said, you're the man. Yikes, I walked right into that. Whoa. Okay, Melania, 3, verse 19 to 21, loudly.
19. For as regardeth the destiny of the sons of men and the destiny of beasts, one fate have they. As dieth the one, so dieth the other. And one spirit have they all. And what's that word?
Preeminence.
Preeminence of man over beast is nothing, for all were vanity, and all go unto the place all came from the dust, and all return to dust. Who knoweth the spirit of the sons of men, whether it ascendeth above, or spirit of the beast, whereas it descendeth below the earth?
There you go. So they all die, and they all become dust. And so our traditions of man just can't accept that and try to make a different doctrine for that. Okay. So we know from the word, man is not immortal. Isn't that insane? I mean, just think about it. That's what we're seeking to be. Do you know anybody immortal? You know people have died? Yeah, they're mortal. And they're not celestial beings. They never have been celestial beings. And in Hebrews, it talks about that Yahweh has given the earth to man. Very simple thing. Okay, so what is this people in heaven, and it's so confusing. Now, let's go look at Tisri 1.
It's all Greek to me.
Yeah, Leviticus 23, page 150 in the Old Testament. So it's a beautiful day that Yahweh marked out.
Oh, the Hebrew text, Isaiah. I'll let you read that.
Old Testament. And I shouldn't have to tell you on some of these books. Ecclesiastes, I should have it. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 23. And this says, Tishri 1 was the 7th month, the first day. And this is so great. This begins every Jewish calendar. And so this begins our too, a celebration of the creation of mankind. Now, it was on Tishri 6, but the whole process began on Tishri 1. And it's usually, this year I think it's going to be around September 21st. And it's also the birthday of Christ. What a perfect thing. Because look what happens on Tishri 1 when Christ was born. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the sons of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, on the 1st of the month, shall there be unto you a sacred rest. A trumpet blowing, and that's incorrect. The word is not trumpet, and so Rothram does this too. It's really called shouting. Let me see here.
Shabbathon?
Yeah, well, it's the Hebrew word teruah, which means to shout.
Do you have the Strong's number?
Yeah, right. Nope. Oh, I did. Yeah, it's 8643. And we've done teachings on this before. But so what you do on the 7th month, on the first day, is a shouting commemoratory, a holy convocation. No laborious work shall you do. But you shall bring near an altar flame unto Yahweh. So here was a day where everybody just rejoiced and shouted. And a lot of times people, the Hebrews probably knew it was a day of creation. That's one reason we were shouting. We're celebrating the day of creation. And our creation, because it was creation before us. So I don't want to say the creation. But when Christ was born, this was happening in Jerusalem. Because Christ was born between about 6:30 and 7:30 on Tishri 1.
PM.
Pardon me?
PM.
Yeah, PM. And that's between the sunsets. It's very fascinating. And Dr. Roll did this on Christ, our promised seed. And we know this is from Revelations chapter 12, the zodiac sign. Let's just go there. Revelations chapter 12, last book of the Bible. And what's neat is, did Mary know his birthday? Sure. So, but they never recorded it. But then Yahweh, in the last book of the Bible, records his birthday. Isn't that cool? Chapter 12, verse 1, page 259. And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman arrayed with the sun. That's called, what, Aaron? Virgo. It's the constellation Virgo. Arrayed with the sun and the moon beneath her feet. And so at the same time, you're going to have the Virgo constellation, sun setting, and the moon right here. And Virgo's pointing this way, her feet's like this. It's a great little chart. The moon had her feet. And she was with child and cried out, being in a pains and in anguish to bring forth. And there appeared another sign in heaven, and lo, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, with upon his head 7 diadems. And his tail draweth the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to bring forth, that as soon as she should bring forth, he might devour her child. Do we have an adversary or what?
Yeah.
I mean, look at that. Before you're even born, trying to get me killed. And she brought forth a son, a man-child, who was about to shepherd all the nations with a scepter of love.
Iron.
Oh, excuse me. A scepter of wool. And her child was caught away unto Yahweh and unto his throne. That tells you his birth. Now we go back to Numbers 29:1, page 188. In the Old Testament. 188. 29:1. And this is Tishri 1 again. And in the 7th month, on the 1st of the month, a holy convocation shall there be unto you. No laborious work shall you do. A day of what?
Loud acclamation.
Acclamation shall it be unto you. Tishri, which is the 7th month, which is actually the 1st month in the calendar year for the Jews, is the best month of all months. It has more holidays and more holy days than any other month. And what are they? There's 3. Can somebody name them? Go.
Passover, Festival of Booths.
No, it's just Tishri, the 7th month. Passover is on Nisan. So you have, that's the last Festival of Booths. And then
Feast of Weeks.
Yom Kippur. That's the 10th. And so you have Rosh Hashanah, that's what they call it, and that is Tishri 1. That's when Christ was born, that's when creation began, our creation began. Then you have Tishri 10, which is the only day of propitiation, where the priest went into the Holy of Holies. That's the only time he's ever been there. It was a day of humbling. And if you go to Leviticus 23, it tells you all about it right there, where we covered. And then you have the 15th, which is the day of the Festival of Booths, which was 7 days. And it's the 7th month. So 7 is a very special number for Yahweh, right?
Spiritual perfection.
Yeah, spiritual perfection. So we look at the calendar. These are so cataclysmic that Yahweh had Tishri 1 as creation. That's Genesis 1:3. And then and we go to Exodus chapter 12, verse 1, page 95. He's going to change from Tishri to Nisan. Chapter 12, verse 1.
Chapter 12 what?
Verse 1. And really this all centers back around Christ, because it's going to be the Passover lamb, which is going to stop the angel of who? Death. So the Passover lamb is going to stop, and it's going to give life. It's going to save the firstborn of everybody. That's who Christ was. And so significant, Christ is born on Tishri 1, and he dies on Nisan the 14th. So Nisan is what Yahweh is going to move to the 1st month now. And so these 2 months, the whole universe, our whole universe, spins on these two events. 12:1. Then spake Yahweh unto Moses and unto Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month is to you a beginning of months. The first it is to you of the months of the year. And that was Nisan. Speak ye unto all the assembly of Israel, saying, On the 10th of this month, then let them take to them each man a lamb for his ancestral household, a lamb for the household. That was Yahushua. When he went into Jerusalem, the person had to get attached to the lamb before they're going to kill it.
Yeah.
And if the household is too small for a lamb, there shall be, let me just go on. Verse 5, a lamb without defect, a male a year old, a year shall be. How old was Yahushua in his ministry life?
About 30.
Yeah, but he only had his ministry for how long?
1 year.
6 months.
Less than 6 months.
Oh,
That's yearly. He said you have to be a lamb less than a year old, right? For the sheep from the goats shall you take it. So shall it be yours to keep until the 14th day of the month. This is the day Yahushua was killed and crucified and died. Then shall all the congregation of the assembly of Israel slay it between the 2 evenings. And they shall take the blood and put it upon the 2 doorposts and upon the upper beam, upon the house wherein they are eating it. Why? Let me see here. 12. And I will pass along, therefore, throughout the land of Egypt this night, and will smite every firstborn in the land of Egypt. Did anybody have to be killed?
no.
No. If everybody just would have done what Yahweh says, and that's the next thing we're going to see is rebellion. From man even to beast, and against all the gods of Egypt will I execute judgment, I Yahweh. So we have figuratively taken the blood of Christ and put it over our doorpost. That way that we have no part of the second death. So let's just look at that. Let's go to Revelations again, 20.
The back of the book.
Yeah, chapter 20, last book. David, all the way to the end of the book.
265 at the very back.
We're going to chapter 20, verse 5 and 6. You want to read that, Esther?
5 and 6?
Yes.
Okay. The rest of the dead live not on it
Until.
until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first
Resurrection. Speak loud.
resurrection.
Resurrection.
Happy and holy is that hath power in the first
Resurrection.
resurrection upon these. The second death had no authority.
Here it is. The second death had no authority. That means they reached immortality. Right? Now, there's no more death. This class of people reached immortality. There's another class that did not, and they're the animals. Obama, maybe the Democratic Party. Let's just see right here in verse 11. And I saw a great white throne, and him that was sitting thereon, from whose face fled the earth, and heaven and place was not found from them. And I saw the dead, the great and the small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. And another book was opened, which is a book of life. And the dead were judged out of the things written in the book according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead that were in it, and death and Sheol gave up the dead that were in them. And they were judged, each one according to their works. And death and Sheol were cast in the lake of fire. This is the second death. But everybody's got everlasting life. So see,
Not the second
according
life.
to the church, everybody has everlasting life, right? Because you're either going to go a good life in heaven or you're going to have a bad life in hell. But either way, everybody lives forever. Where did you get that premise? It completely contradicts all Scripture. And if anyone was not found in the book of life written, he was cast into the lake of fire, the second death. That's the same as animals. They're dead. They've got mortality. So one person said, all of us theoretically will die once. Another group will die twice. We will not. Because we have taken of the tree of life because we want to live in paradise, and we will.
Unless Christ comes back.
Yeah, unless Christ, and that's the exception, if Christ comes back.
What that is.
So look at that. Here is the second death. Here was Nisan, which Yahweh said make that the first month, and that's when Christ was crucified. And then here is Tishri 1, which was the creation when Christ was born. So now you have both the cataclysmic, and Christ was part of both those days before mankind even knew about Christ even coming. Now, let's look at the rebellion side. Yahweh readjusted the calendar because of the exodus of Israel from Egypt for 40 years in the wilderness. We're going to find out how many people rebelled against Yahweh during this time. So let's go to Exodus chapter 14. So we got Genesis, Exodus, that's in the Old Testament.
Page 97.
Exodus what?
Chapter 14, verse 26.
Page 98.
Very significant. Most of this is going to be in Numbers. All these people who are going to rebel against Yahweh are quote-unquote Christian believers because they followed Moses into the wilderness. They all quote-unquote saw all the miracles that Yahweh did, right? They saw the splitting of the Red Seas, and they saw one thing after, the whole thing that happened. Are they without excuse? Do they need any more information that Moses is the man? And that Yahweh is Yahweh?
Yeah.
but they still rebel. All right, that's what we would say. These are the Christian church. What they would say, a great percentage of them. How could you see this and do what you actually did? And which we're going to see that. So she always said that rebellion, the heart of man, it can be so wicked. But we know, did the Egyptians see what Yahweh did to them? And now they're going to go chase them.
Yeah.
Some of the Egyptians became Jews, though.
Yeah. Let's look at 14, verse 26. And so this kind of starts the Exodus. Remember, Nisan started the Exodus. Okay, 14, verse 26 to 30. And Elijah, do you want to read that loud?
26 through what?
Through 30.
Okay. Then said Yahweh unto Moses, Stretch forth thy hand over the sea, that the waters may return upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots, and upon their horsemen. So Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned towards morning to its steady flow. Then the Egyptians were fleeing to meet it. Thus Yahweh shook off the Egyptians into the midst of the sea. Thus the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen, even all the forces of Pharaoh that were entering after them into the sea, that there were not left remaining among them so much as one. For the sons of Israel had gone their way on dry ground in the midst of the sea, and the waters had been to them a wall on the right hand and on their left. Thus did Yahweh on that day save Israel out of the hand of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the shore of the sea. And
This begins their journey. The rebellers, what happened to them? Wiped out. You got to see that, everybody? Yes. Okay. Shouldn't have any questions. Now we go to Exodus 32, chapter 32, verse 25. Moses is up on a mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. Melania, how long can a man live without water?
3 days.
Yeah, and so I didn't realize that. She just went into her science book and it was talking about where we lose our water. We need about 2 quarts a day because that's what we lose. And I never thought about breathing. When you exhale, that's moisture leaving your body. And just put a mirror there. And so you'd have to quit breathing. And even if you're cold, your body temperature is what? Esther? Isaiah? 6. That's warm. Even if you have clothing on, you're going to have evaporation. It's going to leave your body. So you have water leaving your body. Now he's on a mountain in the desert and there's no fountains up there. There's no snow up there. For 40 days and 40 nights, and he didn't take anything up with him.
But he's only 84, right?
Yeah. So you can see somebody living, some people live 40 days without food if you have a lot of fat, but you can't live 40 days without water, so they say he's dead. Let's make us a god. So Haran made him a god. Rebellion, right off the bat. And this is a test. And so in my opinion, why he was up there for 40 days is Yahweh is watching what you guys are going to do without the chief man. And it wasn't Moses needed the probation, the 40-day probation. It's the people needed the 40 days. And let's see what you did. And they flunked. And they made a god. And Aharon flunked. That's where this comes in. And so now we look at verse 25. Now this will start our head count. And Troy, you want to read 25 to 28?
What chapter?
Chapter 32, page 116.
Moses saw the people that unbridled they were, for Aharon had given them the rein for a whispering among their enemies.
Now, this is a great example. That's what Obama has tried to do for the United States. The Democratic Party, by legalizing sodomy, by legalizing every kind of wickedness, men going into men's bathroom, that is giving the reins of unbridledness. And that's what governments, they're supposed to stop. Have the reins and say, you can't do that. You just can't do that. And so the illegal aliens, immigration, all these things is all anarchy. They're all signs of lawlessness. And so that's what Aaron did. Once you take a bridle, I showed the kids, once you take a bridle off a horse, you're going to go for a nice ride, according to what it says. Right? That's why you keep a bridle in the mouth to direct it, to pull back and say, no, you're not going there. Okay, now going to 26.
So Moses took his stand in the gate of the camp and said, Who is for Yahweh? To me. Then gathered unto him all the sons of Levi. And he said to them, Thus saith Yahweh, Elohim of Israel, Put ye every man his sword upon his thigh, pass through and return from gate to gate in the camp, and slay ye every man his brother, and every man his friend, and every man his neighbor. So the sons of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there fell from among the people on that day about 3,000 men.
Wow. Now, these are all, were these 3,000 people witnesses of what Yahweh did? Did they rebel against Yahweh? Yes, they did. Are you willing to kill your brother? If they came down to that, then you need to. And so there's a real separation to say, Yahweh said, or Christ says, who are my brothers and my sisters? Those who hear the word of Yahweh and do it. All right. So if you're going to choose your parents or your family members over Yahweh, you're not worthy of it. When it comes down to it, because that's what Adam did with Eve. He chose Eve over Yahweh. Eve was deceived. Adam was not. So why did he do it? Because he chose Eve over his deal. So a husband and wife cannot ever be that way. You cannot do it to your children. Anything else? And these guys killed his brother, his friend, and his neighbor. Wow. They chose allegiance to who? Yahweh over these people. So we have to have that same toughness. Well, there's 3,000 down. Now we go to Leviticus chapter 10, which is page 133, just a little bit over. Who else rebelled? 10 verse 1 and 2. Isaiah, you want to read chapter 10 verse 1 and 2 on page 133?
Yeah. Page 1.
Read
Verse
aloud.
1 and 2. 1 and 2.
1 and 2.
Okay. Then Aaron's sons,
Nadab,
and
Abihu,
took each man in his censer and placed them in fire and put therefore incense and brought near before Yahweh strange fire, which had not commanded them. Then he came forth fire from Yahweh and consumed them, and they died before Yahweh.
Wow. Okay, there's 2. And guess who they are?
Moses' nephews.
Aaron's
Oh, yeah.
sons. And whose nephews were they?
Moses.
Moses' nephews. So now we're at 3,002. And they chose to rebel against Yahweh. Not tolerated. Now we go back to go to Numbers. Next book to the right, Leviticus, Numbers, chapter 11, 31. Wow. And these were priests. And so you think for a minute that people have high religious order some of them are going to rebel against Yahweh? Like, no, these were Aaron's sons. These were the priest class. You know, not only the Levites, they were the priesthood. So don't ever be surprised when that somebody's not fallible or they're infallible. 11 verse 31 through 34. Now they said, we're tired of this manna. We want meat. We want meat. And so we're going to see what happens. And we're going to read that, Wendy. 31 to 34.
Now a wind had sprung up from Yahweh and cut off quails from the sea and let them lie over the camp, as it were a day's journey here and a day's journey there, round about the camp, and as it were 2 cubits excuse me, on the face of the land. And the people rose up all that day and all that night and all the next day and gathered the quails. He that did least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them out for themselves, spreading away round about the camp. The flesh was yet between their teeth, not yet chewed, when the anger of Yahweh had kindled upon the people, and Yahweh smote the people with an exceeding great plague. And the name of that place was Kilbroth Hadavah, because there they buried the people who had lusted.
So here's another group that lusted. That it sounds very severe, so I don't know if they're getting raw birds and just tearing things with their mouth. Just something very
Something
bad
weird,
about this.
yeah.
You saw that group now. Now we go to chapter 12, and we're going to find out about Moses' sister
And brother.
and brother. So we have to always insulate ourselves to say Yahweh wants fidelity, 100% allegiance. So that's above your wife, it's above your children, it's above your government, it's above anybody else, wife, children, parents. So whenever it comes, I choose between these and Yahweh. He wants 100% fidelity. That's called faithfulness. And these people were not. And so we would be tempted with the same situation. I've seen many people fallen when they chose their children over Yahweh. They've fallen when we know countless people like that, where their children live in sin. So when the children who are believers go live in sin, let's say they go commit fornication, and not getting married, but they're having a sexual relationship with a partner, what are the parents supposed to do? According to the word.
Confront them.
Yeah, is to cast them aside and not even eat with them. That's what 1 Corinthians 5 says. Are you willing to do that? And if you're not, you've broken that allegiance. You've broken the hesed of Yahweh. And so it's 100% Yahweh. So if you say to do it, I'm going to do that. That's it. So, just thing after thing. If your parents become an alcoholic, and they were Christians before, and they chose alcoholism, goodbye, adios. And when you give up the alcohol, because this says a brother is a drunkard, a fornicator, And I look at that with the Democratic Party. We've got this woman called Julia, and she's supposed to be a Christian, and her husband's a big Democrat. And then I gave her information that said, if you vote for Hillary or the Democratic Party, you're breaking 5 of the 10 commandments. And so I sent it right to her, and she came back, and these judges too, wicked judges are in Kansas, just wicked. And she came back and never responded to my letter, and said, and just came down, I voted on her little thing, proud of it. And I thought, you're an absolute rebellion against Yahweh, and I had nothing to do with you, period. Because you're a believer, you're supposed to be a believer, and you're in wickedness right there. If you're a Democrat and you're celebrating that, because now you're for murder, you're for, which is abortion, you're for sodomy, which you're for stealing. That was all happening to my kids. Why would I have any association with you? Well, I'll try to warm up to her or whatever. You're like, well, I'll turn around. Are you kidding? That's exactly what Yahweh said. Not even me was such a person. Okay, Miriam, chapter 12, verse 1, and Miriam and Aaron spake unto Moses, spake against Moses. God. Wow. On account of the Cushite woman.
Color.
So, hey, where was Moses' wife from?
Cush.
And what country is that?
Ethiopia.
That's why she's probably black. So people don't realize that she's probably Negro, because that's Ethiopians. Whom he had taken for a Cushite woman, had he taken, and they said, is it only solely with Moses that Yahweh has spoken? With us also hath he not spoken? Can prophets sin and rebel?
Mm-hmm.
Was Miriam a prophetess?
Yeah.
Was Aaron a prophet? Yes, he were. Can they sin?
Yeah,
They
so
just-
King David.
Here it is. These are the top. As I know, there's 3, Moses, Miriam, Aharon, and 2 out of the 3 went into rebellion against, when they go against Yahweh, or Moses, they're going against Yahweh. And so what happened to Miriam, as we all know, 9 and 10. And Isaiah, you want to read 9 and 10?
Yep. And the anger of Yahweh kindled upon them, and he departed. And when the,
You don't want that. The anger of Yahweh came on you. And what's going to happen?
and when the cloud removed from off the tent, lo, from off there,
Miriam,
Miriam,
leprous.
like snow, and Aaron turned unto Miriam. and lepers.
Isn't that a great way how Rotherham
I
put
want to
this?
know why Aaron didn't get leprosy.
We know that. I told you that.
I don't remember.
Okay, so we have to think Yahweh is no respecter of persons. So I'm going to assume that Miriam started this, and Aaron was a good old guy that just went along and helped.
Wanted to make everybody happy.
And that's why I think he made the calf. He came up, Aaron, make us a calf. Well, okay. And so sometimes you just have a good old boy that does this. And the other thing we saw is when he saw a leopardess, did Miriam call out for deliverance to Moses? No.
Aaron.
What happened to Miriam? She's the one that had the problem. So Miriam is quiet. Did Aaron call out to Yahweh or to Moses?
Moses.
Wow, he knew the pecking order. See, right there, he submitted him, and he called him what? Lord. He called Moses Lord. Was Aaron his older brother?
Yes.
No.
Would you want to call it? Yeah.
Oh, Aaron's older.
Yeah. Would you want to call your younger brother Lord?
Israel?
Oh, squirt.
Yeah, that's not very comfortable. And so that is humility and meekness, where you submitted yourself to his lordship. But so my whole thing is, she never said anything. And we know she was only cast out and for 7 days, but Aaron was just in hot water all the time. But Yahweh just knew his nature. And he said, Moses saved his life, so I think Yahweh wanted to kill you, making this golden calf, but I prayed for you. So Moses, the only thing I can think about Aaron, he's just a good old guy that just is manipulated, very easy to try to please.
Wherefore
him.
then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant, against Moses?
Yeah, Moses, yeah.
I'd have run.
They should have hit the ground right off the bat. I mean, hit the floor, they're kneeling, and repent before Yahweh said a word. And like nothing, but you got that hard-heartedness with all of us. I'm not gonna apologize. I'm not gonna apologize. Okay. And what did leprosy automatically say about you?
Unclean.
Can you? Yeah, you are unclean. Can you come to the tent of meetings?
Nope. Can't
That means you're separated from Yahweh.
from everybody.
Wow. But it was only temporary. So that's Miriam. Now we go to chapter 14, verse 35 through 37. So look at Numbers, this foliage, rebellion, so a great deal. 14, 35 through 37. And I, Yahweh, have spoken. Verily, this will I do to all this evil. Well, here was the 12 princes went out to spy out the land. And as we know, they sabotaged 10 out of the 2. So don't ever be shocked if out of Christianity, what percentage is that? You know, more than 80%. 80% are against you. Yeah, because that would be 10. If it's 2 out of 10, you know, they were 20%, they were 80%. So the 10 said, we can't do this. 2 said we can. So probably about 18%. You seem like you're outnumbered. So are they. So people say, hey, Mark 11, 22, 24. Have the faith of Yahweh. Whosoever, verily I say unto you, whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that what he speaketh cometh to pass, it shall be his. Doubters?
Yeah.
No. For this cause I say unto you, all things whatsoever you are praying for and asking, believe that you have them, and they shall be yours. Believers? No. Most people are going to say no. No, that's just not true. And that's the 10.
Yeah.
Right? Oral Roberts and other people were the 2.
Yeah.
See? Oh, okay, but here's the spies. Now, as for the men when Moses went to spy out the land, who returned and caused all the assembly to murmur, not only were you cowardice, if you wanted to stay in the wilderness and go back to Egypt, do it on your own. But they spread a rumor. Or they could say, I'm too afraid, you guys go without me. But no, they're going to say, we can't do it, we can't do it, we can't do it. Now we got a problem. Because it's not just your cowardice, you're instilling fear.
Yeah.
You're the mouthpiece of Satan to the whole camp. And that's what's going to happen to them. And they spread a rumor against the land. They died, the men who gave out an evil rumor of the land by the plague before Yahweh. There's 10 more rebels. Chapter 15, verse 32. And, you want to read, David?
I have no idea.
Okay, we're in Numbers, page 174. Sorry. Okay, Melania, why don't you read 32 to 36 loudly.
While the sons of Israel were in the desert, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath day. And they who found him gathering sticks brought him near unto Moses and unto Aaron and unto the assembly. And they put him in ward because it was not clear what they should do unto him. Then said Yahweh unto Moses, the man shall be put to death. All the assembly stoning him with stones outside the camp.
Wait a minute. Hey, was there an option not to pick up a stone? If you didn't pick up the stone, were you in disobedience?
Yes.
Yes, you were. Hard stuff, huh?
Yep.
You want to kill somebody?
No.
Yahweh says kill him.
Yep.
What's that? You have to say, I'm either going to take allegiance to Yahweh or I'm not. See? It's always that same decision. Am I going to obey or disobey? Obey or disobey? And it's not for me to understand why. If he says this, if I don't understand, I'm going to do it. Fidelity. 36?
Rough.
So then all the assembly put him forth outside the camp and stoned him with stones until he died.
That's it. Okay,
So
that's
they
one.
did.
Now we're going to chapter 16, right there, verse 1 through 3. Another rebel. Golly, it's just one after another after another. When do you want to read 1 through 3?
Then took Korah, son of Izhar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, and Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, and On, son of Peleth, sons of Reuben. And there rose up before Moses with certain men of the sons of Israel, 250 princes of the assembly, called to the stated meeting, men of renown, and gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, and said unto them, too much for you, when all the assembly are all of them holy, and in the midst of them is Yahweh. Wherefore then should ye set yourselves up above the convocation of Yahweh?
Isn't that amazing? These were princes. These are the top echelon. And are they supposed to be believers? They're Hebrews, they're seeds of Abraham. Mm-hmm. Yes, they are. Now let's just see what happens to them. 31 and 35. Are you there, David? Page 176.
Yeah.
Read 31 to 35.
Okay. And it came to pass, as he made an end of speaking of all these words, that the ground which was under them cave under, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them, and their households, and all human beings who pertained to Korah, with all their goods. So they and all their pertained unto them went down alive unto Hades, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished out of the midst of convocation, and all Israel who were round them fled at their cry, for they said, lest the earth swallowed us up. Fire also came forth from Yahweh and consumed the 250 men who offered the incense.
Okay, there went another 250 plus down. Korah was a Levite. And when they rebelled against Aharon and Moses, they were rebelling against Yahweh. Now we go to verse 41, same chapter. And all the assemblies of the sons of Israel murmured on the morrow against Moses and against Aharon, saying, now think of that, here you go, I mean, what, now this is for over 40 years, but it said on the morrow, we saw what happened before, so this is the next day. Ye have caused the death of the people of Yahweh. Man, doesn't that ring a bell? That's the Democratic Party and our adversary all the time. You're the problem. Moses, you're the problem. And it came to pass when the assembly gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aharon, there you go again, rebellion, and they turned towards the tent of meetings, and lo, the cloud had covered it, and the glory of Yahweh appeared. And Moses and Aharon came in before the tent of meetings. Then spake Yahweh unto Moses, saying, lift yourself up out of the midst of this assembly, that I may consume them as in a moment. And they fell from their faces. Then said Moses unto Aharon, take a censer and place her in fire from off the altar and put incense. And going, you know what's so significant about the fire? And what his two sons did not do?
The fire was from
Yahweh started the first fire
It's
in
not
the
the
tent
first
of
fire.
meetings. And that was it. They were supposed to keep coals from that for generations. Never start another fire. And so that was holy fire, and that's where Moses went to the altar and took off coals to put in the incense. You could only use it because Yahweh started the fire. Where he ever started the fire too is in Solomon's temple. When Solomon, they did a new temple up there, he started the fire there, and there's another situation. There's where all the ashes and the embers, that's the only thing he used, because Yahweh was ignited on both parts. That is holy fire. You didn't bring a match to it. That's cool? So that's where he went to the censer and put a propitiatory covering over them, for wrath had gone forth from before Yahweh, the plague had begun. Then took Aharon as Moses spake, and ran into the midst of the convocation, and lo, the plague had begun among the people. So he placed the incense and put a propitiatory covering over the people. Thus did he take his stand between the dead and the living, and the plague was restrained. And so it was that they who died in the plague were how many?
14,700.
14,700. That was just after 250 died the day before. This rebellion upon rebellion upon rebellion, them who died over the matter of Korath. Whew. Right. And 21, chapter 21.
You don't have any nightmares in the home.
It's like everybody at the WSU Roundhouse dying.
Yeah, more than that, yeah. That's almost the KU deal. It's I think 16,000. So I think WSU has 10, maybe 11,000. Now we get into, let me see here, 21 verses 5 and 6. And somebody want to read 5 and 6?
I do.
Go ahead. Page 180, chapter 21, verse 5 and 6. So then the people spake. I'll go ahead and do it. So then the people spake against Elohim and against Moses. Here they go again, right? It's always the same formula. What is that? Set thou, O Yahweh, a watch over my mouth. Keep thou guard over the door of my lips. Let not my heart incline unto
Matters are wrong, that I may busy myself with practices and lawlessness, with men working iniquity, and let me not eat of their dainties.
Very good. Okay, Esther, give me a verse. Isaiah 6:3.
Hoya, 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 jive host. That
The fullness?
the fullness of the whole earth is his glory.
This is called a pop quiz. Okay, Isaiah, give me a verse. And don't say Jesus wept.
Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy.
Yeah. Hero Israel.
Here Israel,
Yahweh.
Yahweh,
Or Elohim.
Yahweh is Elohim,
Yahweh is one.
Yahweh is one, Yahweh alone. Thou shalt therefore love Yahweh thy Elohim with all thy heart, with all thy mind, with all thy soul.
Deuteronomy 6.
6:4-5.
Very good. Good.
Good.
Next.
Romans 10:9.
That if thou shalt.
That if thou shalt confess with thy mouth that
Lord?
that Jesus is Lord, and believe in your hearts that Yahweh hath raised him from the dead, then you shall be saved.
Amen.
From among the dead, then you shall be saved.
That's right. Amen. Good, guys. I want to ask you the adults.
Moab's my wash.
What about
Okay.
the pot?
And where was I?
Moab's my wash pot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I read that from John Lennon.
Let's see here. Oh, 21. No, we already did that. Was it? No.
5, I think. 4.
5. Oh, yeah. 5. Okay. And 6. Yeah, 5. So then the people spake against Elohim and against Moses. Wherefore have you put up us out of Egypt to die in the desert? God, I just like, my mouth. For there is neither bread nor water, and our soul doth loathe this contemptible bread. Man, can
What's
you
the
believe
matter?
it? Can you just believe it? They'd rather be a slave, a fat slave, than a free man under a cloud that's above this tabernacle day and night. Things are dropping out of heaven, food, and you're not happy.
Water coming out of the rocks.
Yeah, water coming out of the rocks, birds are flying. You're in a desert, and there's a cloud covering you every day of the year, which keeps you from burning, and it keeps you from
Clothes
freezing at
aren't
night.
wearing out.
And people are looking at you saying, how you got millions of people living out there? There's no water, there's no food, and you're complaining. You think with us that we're not looking at what we have instead of what we don't have?
Yeah.
Oh, I want a cucumber. And that's what it is. I want a Ferrari, God. I'm just unhappy about this Ferrari. 6, and Yahweh said among the people to poison the serpents, and they bit the people, and much people out of Israel, what? Died. Okay, chapter 25. So we're almost finished. Yeah, sorry. You have no idea of how many people rebelled against Yahweh. 1. We don't have time to go all the way through it to 9. You see here. Look at the title above it. Israel and the daughters of Moab. Phinehas jealous for his God. And Israel remained among the Arcadians, and the people began to go away unchaste after the daughters of Moab, who invited the people unto the sacrifice of their gods. So the people did eat and did bow themselves down unto their gods. Thus Israel let himself be bound unto Baal Peor, and the anger of Yahweh kindled upon Israel. And so we always have to understand, people say, well, if I can only see God, then I would obey him. So how much do these people see? I mean, your very existence, the breath that you have is a miracle. To say, if I saw the way splitting and walk through it, I'd be obedient. And look at this. I mean, you notice right there, hey, isn't that cloud right there on fire? And I'm going to go have sex with the next door neighbor who's an unbeliever? I mean, really? You see that thing burning right there? He really killed a lot of people. But that lust of the flesh, let's go to 9. Then it was found that they who had died by the plague were 24,000. So now we just hit 24,000 more people. And we'll skip 31 verse 8 was the person who told him how to do this was called Balaam. And he was a prophet of Yahweh. Yahweh spoke to him. He has 3 chapters in his book. 3 pages about Balaam. And he told the Midianites to go seduce these Israelites. And so what happened to him? He gets killed in 31 verse 8. And then for the whole caboodle of them, chapter 26, this will be this one, 63 to 65. We're not going to kill you fast, but you cannot go into the promised land because of your unbelief. And so it was people who were 20 and over. You're going to spend 40 years. Guess what? Your life expectancy is 40 years because you're going to die. And there's only 2 that aren't going to die, and who is that?
Caleb and Joshua.
And Joshua, Yahushua and Caleb. And so because of your disobedience, we're going to let the new generation come in and take over. So the final thing is in 63. These are they who were numbered by Moses and Eleazar the priest when they numbered the sons of Israel in the waste plains by Moab, by Jordan near Jericho. And among these was there not found a man of them who had been numbered by Moses and Aaron the priest when they numbered the sons of Israel in the desert of Sinai. That was when they first came in. Now they're leaving. For Yahweh has said unto them, they shall surely die in the desert. And there was not left of them a man, save only Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Yahushua, son of Nun. So, this is all rebellion. You say, well, how could they be so stupid? Well, what are we doing? Where are we not faithful? Do we have friends who are fornicating?
He can't see Las Vegas though, can he? What happens there stays there.
Yeah, what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas.
You can't see in there.
Yeah, good point. And so we have to just clean up our act. Now we're in a different age, but he wants fidelity. And Christ is our example. And so it's very simple. Christ says, everybody should try to memorize 2 Corinthians 5, 14 and 15. For the love of the Christ. Isn't that funny? We're going to give it, a personification like love is a person. For the love of the Christ constraineth us. Having said this, judge this, that one in behalf of all died, hence they all died, and in behalf of all died he, in order that they who live, what? No longer live for themselves, but for him who in their behalf died and awoke. Now think of that. He was on the cross for you, and you, and you, and you, and me, dying a horrendous death. Now can I just get in line and with all of them just say, okay, and when I get out of line, you know what I do? I get down on my knees and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And we're going to all get out of line. We're all going to sin.
Not me.
But when it comes down to, okay, parents, wife, husband, children, government, political parties, employment, my employer starts becoming evil stuff that's legal. Am I going to say there? No. It's legal. And that's what they try to do, and that's them taking the bridle, is by legalizing sin, then a person can say, well, it's not sin then, because it's legal. And that's like going to Las Vegas, because prostitution is legal. And so then it must be all right with God, because Nevada says it's all right. Okay.
I wonder what is legal in Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
It was legal
Okay.
there?
So we'll go ahead and now speak. We're going to have manifestations according to 1 Corinthians 14. So whoever's inspired to speak in tongues and interpret or prophesy and do it with boldness, go ahead. Thank you, Father, for these words through Christ our Lord.
My children, you are strong, they are weak. You are my child, they are not. You are my child. You will grow strong, and others will not. They will be weak, you will be strong. Just follow my footsteps, and you will be the person who everybody will know, who everybody will like. Just follow my footsteps. Tell them what they could do, and they can be just like you. Just follow me and read my words and tell them my words.
My children, take my hand this day. And as we're walking down the path, if you stray away from the path, don't worry. Just follow the shining light. And follow that light, and I'll be waiting right at that light so we could get back on the path and go to where we are going. You have to look for the light.
My children.
Head up.
My children. Most people, it's like opening the Bible. Everybody can open the Bible. But can you open your heart? Most people can just say, they open the Bible and say, hey, this is easy. You have to open your heart. You can't just open the Bible. You have to open your heart to me. Amen.
Shakadwe mate no moi. Kati yamatu mate mo. Kalai chatuda. Kuja masi mecho mo. Kati nekeana. Kusha misi mechu mayo. Paniki anakayo. Pasini kayo mo. Payina kishinya. Kusamaki mo. Pesen shakai. My children, many of you think I am in control but I am not in control. I can get you pointed in the right direction with my book, but I am not in control of what happens, of what you do, of what person you become. I can help you get pointed in the right direction to me, but I cannot control you.
I have a word of prophecy. If you would understand my heart and my love for you, by reconciling when I ask for you, many times I ask you to do certain things, and all you can think about is what is natural. What are you giving up? So even as you look at my word, you're looking at what do I have to give up? What do I have to give up? And if you don't focus on the right things, then you'll be very unsuccessful at what I've called you to do. My son was able to do what he did because he stood and he looked at the glory that was set before him. This life will come and go so quickly. Before you know it, you'll be an old person getting ready to go to sleep permanently. And that all your opportunities will be gone. But when my son comes back, you will awaken to the new heaven and the new earth. That'll be perfect. And you will receive all the dividends of your obedience. So I'm not just asking you to let go of things. I'm asking you guys to let go and grab better things. Look at my son. Look at my love for you. Look what I did not withhold from you. How could you ever withhold anything from me, honestly, if you have a good heart? So look what my son did. Look what I did. And look where we're going. Because there's going to be lots of positions. There's going to be a lot of rewards that are available to you should you choose to receive the abundance that I set before you each day.
No, my children, there is never a time when you can't bring your sorrows and your worries and your needs before me. Know that I hold you and your needs and your wants and desires within the palms of my hands. I cover you, my children. Do as I've called you to do, and you will receive great miracles.
My sons and daughters, I have given you spiritual armor, and I will tell you when to put upon a shell over you to protect you and shield you, but I'm not calling you to live under a shell, but to stand bold and to be ready to speak the words that I utter upon you, that as you do these things, that you are speaking truth and light, and the freedom that comes from these things will reach out to many multitudes.
Hallelujah.
Father, we thank you for these words through our Lord and Savior, Mashiach Yahushua.
Are you going to do a prophecy?
No.